Hey, what's going on guys? Hope everyone will be fine and welcome back to another tutorial. So in this video I'm going to explain you that how you can create a full stack with the Laravel and the Angular CRUD, right? So in the very first video that if you see, I have already created the RESTful API CRUD with Laravel, and this is a complete series where I have explained you how to create the APIs. We have worked with all the create, read, update, delete, all are there, and tested with the using of Postman. So make sure you have Postman installed. So in this video, I'm going to show you a very basic demo of the very first part. So it's going to be a complete CRUD functionality that I'm going to create a full stack video using Angular and Laravel. So in the part one, I'm going to explain you that how you can create an API, add the data inside using MySQL, and we can show the data using the Angular front end, right? So this is going to be a very much interesting video. So there are some prerequisite that I just highly suggest you if you want to continue with that step-by-step procedure. So first you need to watch, keep sure that you have a complete understanding about how to create an API using Laravel, using the Postman, and test the API, and all done using this complete video, right? I hope you can clearly get a complete knowledge about all the APIs that we are going to use in this part, right? Next thing you need to do is to go and install the node.js, right? So you have to make sure that while installing the Angular, you need to install the node.js, right? And next you need to do is to just go to your angular.io, click on the get started here, and the reason why you need to install the npm, because you need to install the npm install-g angular CLI, and I'm gonna install the Angular using the command line interface. So just inside my project, if you haven't if you don't want to keep and you have a knowledge about that, you can just simply grab from my GitHub that I have given in the repository. You can just simply need to actually don't need to go there, right? And all you need to do is to just click on the GitHub link, and there you go, and you can easily download or clone the code all from here, right? So that's how you can do. And using the Postman, I can show you that it's a very simplest way that you need to add your 127.0.1 and the port number 8000. I'm using /API/employees. I hope that's gonna be the link, and the request, which is the get request. So click on the send, and now you see we have the data already. So I have a data also inside my database, which you can see only 2 IDs, and that's where it is, right? So I hope you can learn everything from this video, and now you can get started with the another video, right? So the first thing you need to do is to install that. So I'm gonna go inside my Laravel _API. Inside that same path, I'm gonna I believe I should be out of the folder of this Laravel _API. So I'm going to create here using git bash. So you can go to the git-scm.com in order to install the Laravel, right? So I'm going to paste my code, npm install-g, and press enter. So this is going to take a while, and next you need to do is to just simply type ng new and the name of the app, right? So let's see if I just give the name of my app. Let's see how long it takes to run my command. So this is going to run and see. All right, so I'm going to hold this video for now, and soon we are back with the install. Once it's done, I'm going to soon get back to the installation procedure, right? So it's installed properly, and now I'm just need to click the ng new and the name of the app. So in my case, the name of the app should be customer app, right? All right, so now we have installed our customer app, and just click on here, and I'm using git bash here. So what I do here is that I already cd into the customer app. So all I did here, once it's installed, you need to just go to the cd and just simply type customer app. And there we go. So now you are inside the same directory. So I'm going to open up with the code dot if you have git bash installed, so then it can only be open, right? So now we have our customer app is installed, having all the major files which are required for the Angular. So in order to run that, all you need to do is to just simply type here ng serve -- open. All right, and that's going to open up our Angular application if it's installed properly. And one thing I need to keep sure that I have explained each and everything in my all previous. I want to give the whole link in the description where you can learn about the structure about the Angular, where you can learn about the components, where you can learn about the services and everything, which is routers and all the things which are required. But don't worry if you haven't, if you have no experience with the Angular, but I still try my all best to explain each and everything as better, so you could be, it can be for the fresh beginners to the intermediate level, right? So now it's gonna run and open up on the localhost port number 4200. By default it's open, but it's gonna open on my Explorer, but I need to open up Edge, sorry, and but I want to open up on my Chrome, right? So all you need to do is to just click, is just to type localhost 4200, and that's gonna create the basic app for the Angular, right? So it's now running on the port 4200, and keep sure that you must have your Laravel _ API. If you have, as I explained, that if you watch this series, you just keep sure that the server must be running, right, in order to test that out, right? So I have already installed, and this is the GitHub link for it. You can download it from here. So I'm just gonna remove all the close all the unnecessary links. All right, so now we have our database, and our main application, Laravel application, is up and running, right? So in order to, if I just want to show you real quick, this is our new app, right? And I just need to close my previous. Okay, so all you need to do is to keep sure if you have installed, or you take the clone, or if you have learned about the APIs, how to create, if following my previous video, all you need to do is to just click on the git bash here and run here the server, which is php artisan serve. So in order to make sure that everything is keep running, right? And test this out, all you need to do is just simply type up here, because we are using the Laravel has the localhost port number 8000/API, which is basically the file. If I just want to show you real quick about that, from where this API is coming from. As I already explained that, I have explained everything there, but still just want to show you guys. If you go to the routes api.php, basically these are all the routes that we have created for getting all the employees, for getting the employee specific detail, add the employee, update the employee, and delete the employee. So we are going to create everything here, all the CRUD functionality, right? So I hope it makes sense to you, right? So I just go back and just keep running my server running, right, in order to test this out. And I already tested on my Postman. Just click on the send request, and it's going to give me a response, which is working fine. All right, so let's create the very first page here. But make sure that if you see that Angular has its own boilerplate for the front end, for the front page, home page, right? So what I'm going to do here is to first create the components inside that. So I'm going to create the component using the terminal, which Visual Studio Code provide. If you're using the Git Bash, you can use Git Bash here if you want, right? So it all depending upon you, that where you feel comfortable with that, right? So I'm going to do here to first create the component using all. If you have installed the VS Code, all you need to do is to go to the view and click on the terminal, right? So let's create the very first one, ng for the Angular, G for generate, and let's create here the component. So I'm going to create a folder with the name of components, but before that I just need to C for component, and this is going to be the name of the folder, right? And components name of the folder, and let's give it the name of employees. All right, so I press enter, and it's going to create the component, 4 files for it. The first one, 4 to 5 files. So the first one, which is the HTML and the testing file, specs.ts, which we don't need that. It's going to create the component.ts, which is the TypeScript file, and the CSS file, and the most important, which is update, which is the app.module.ts file. Automatically, it's what actually does app.module.ts file, a very important vital file that's going to import all the components inside that. You see, we have created the component, and it by default it's import up here and put inside the array of declaration, right? So later on we're going to change using change the route of that. So we will do it later on, right? So now I'm going to create the next thing. So basically we are going to create a service here, right? So I'm going to create a S, or you can do S for service, and I'm going to create a folder with the name of service/data, right? I have to press enter, and this is going to create the services for us. So services are classes just like which are used to that can share data and functionality across the components, right? So that's the main purpose of using the services, and we can create the very first service with the passage of even we can create a pass with the help of service. We can share the data across components, right? Okay, now we have done with the components, we are done with the service. So now we have to create our routes. So what actually are routes? So routes are basically used to navigate the page from one page to the another. So let's create our very first route, and that's all you need to do is to go inside your source app, and inside your app.module.ts file. That's where we can import our router module. And what router module? Again, it's a module which helps us to navigate pages, so we can do and create our very first route. Okay, let's import the router module here. So go inside your app.module.ts file, and let's import here. So import and type your router module, which is already present inside your Angular app. So you need to just simply type your Angular/router, which should be already, it's showing you the reference, which is down here, right? So Angular/router, but we need to also define the route. So I'm going to define another parameter here. So I import another module for it. So I give it here routes. So basically routers represent a route configuration for the router service. All right. Okay, so first thing that you need to do for creating your app routes, you need to go after your employee component, just after before the ng module decorator. All you need to define here const app routes, define the routes, and that's gonna bring up an array of here. So first we are going to define here the path, which is the home. I just keep that blank. That means it's the main primary home page, which you can see that where you have a boilerplate of your Angular app, right? So now I'm going to define here the component. So the component here, I'm going to define here for the employee component, right? So just press enter. Make sure you have your Angular extension installed. That I have installed the Angular snippets. So it won't be real, makes things a lot much easier for the readability. So you keep sure you have installed your snippets for the version 11. That's why I'm using VS Code, which makes things a lot much easier for me. Okay, so once you're done with that, and now after defining your app routes, you need to go down to your imports, which is an array. So you need to define your imports, and which also include the HTTP client module, which I'm going to add after that. But first we have to clear our concept about the routes, right? So I define here the router module. We give it the route for the path, which is the employee component. And now inside your imports, I'm going to define here the router module. So let's define here inside the import, which is the router module, and dot for root. And let's pass here the app routes. Okay, so I pass here the app routes. So let's see. Yeah, there's no any semicolon required here, right? So yeah. Okay, I hope now we are good with the routes. Let's take step 1, right? Looks more readable. Okay, now I'm going to do the next thing is to define my HTTP client module. But before doing that, I need to go inside my service. Let's go into your data.service.ts, right? So that's where we are going to define our client HTTP module, because we need to get the data from the API and pass to our main home, pass it to the component, to your component.ts file. And how we can do it with the help of services, we can share the data or functionality across components, right? So for that, all you need to do is to go inside your data.service.ts, and first thing you need to define here, import the HTTP client for retrieving the request and the response, right? So I'm going to define here import HTTP client, right, from the Angular slash common slash HTTP. All right. Okay. So we have defined our HTTP client, and next thing I'm going to do inside your constructor, I'm going to pass here my HTTP client. So private HTTP client, and this should be smaller h, right? And now I'm going to import the HTTP client here, right? So I'm going to define my HTTP client inside my constructor, and let's create a function with the name of get employee data or get data, whatever you feel comfortable with. So get the data. So all I'm going to do is to return and this dot HTTP. So we are going to retrieve the request and pass the response to the component. So I'm using here HTTP client dot get, which is the request, and just simply pass here the URL, which is inside my Postman, which I'm using, right? So I copy that up and paste it here, and I hope everything is clean and good here inside the service, right? Okay, now I'm going to make my page a lot much easier if I go back and refresh this, which actually automatically it's keep running. And however, I have changed in the path, which is component employees component, and why it's not showing me up here, because we haven't passed here to the app.component.html, the router outlet. So app.component.html shows you everything which is inside your main homepage. So I'm going to remove that and pass here the inside the container, which is again a container which is a Bootstrap class. So I'm also using Bootstrap here. So let's go to the getbootstrap.com, and you can just simply copy the CSS only, right? So I go up here, and inside your, I believe it should be index.html, and let's paste it down here, right? So I have my CSS, I pass my CDN for the Bootstrap, and if you have installed using the CLI, make sure that you have your base href slash, right? By default it should be there, right? In order, if it's not, you can add up here. Okay, now next thing you need to do is to define your router-outlet. So I'm going to define my router-outlet, and it's not router-left, it's router-outlet. All right, saves it, and now if I go back to my employee app, you see that now employees works, and actually it's coming from the if I go to the components and employee.components.html, this paragraph is basically passed to our main home page, and we have already defined inside my app.module.ts that it has the path of the main home page. All right, so I hope that makes sense to all the viewers that are just looking at it. Now I just need to create a navbar too. So in order to create the navbar, you need to just again create the component. So let's give it the name of navbar /navbar. And this is going to create a navbar here. So okay, now we have our navbar install a component created. Inside the components we have a navbar, and go inside your navbar.component.html, remove that up, and I need a Bootstrap navbar, right? So go to the examples and go to the starter template, press Ctrl U, and just simply grab the nav, right? So I copy that up and paste it inside my navbar.component.html. I don't need that form, and I don't need any drop down here, so I'm going to remove that /ul. I don't need that toggle. Also, I don't need any disable link, right? So I remove everything from the navbar. All right, so I need to pass that inside my app.component.html. That's where I need to define my navbar. So navbar should app-navbar. So where actually this selector is coming from, because we have created our navbar.component.html and we passed the HTML, and this selector is coming from the TS file. So I just simply grab this app-navbar, and just like as we have passed the routes inside our app.component.html file, we just bring our navbars as a selector. Now if I just saves it, and I believe this is going to show up our navbar, right? So there you can see, right? So now we are done with that too. Okay, so let's, after the container, I'm going to create our horizontal row, and just after the horizontal row I'm going to create my row, and after the row I'm going to create the column, which is a bootstrap. So call dash let's create only the column, and inside the column I'm going to define my margin top 5 and margin bottom to be 5. All right, and next we have to define, now I'm going to define the grid for the call dash md for medium dash 8, and let's make the margin horizontal auto, so mx dash auto. Right, so let's bring this router outlet inside the, all right, so I just grab this in and let's see how it looks. Okay, now we can see the employees were paragraph now. Okay, so because we don't need to define here employees.component.ts, all I'm going to do is to create a table. So let's create a table. Let's just create a dummy table with the class of table. So I created a class of table thead. So these are all the Bootstrap class tr. Now I'm going to define here th table, and it has a scope of column, and let's bring up here the id hash, right? Okay, I'm going to copy that 3 more times. So we have our name, which we have our email, we have our salary. All right, so I just saves that all, and just want to show you where these columns are coming from. So I have in my database ID, name, email, and the salary, right? So that's why I have my columns. And afterwards we have our t body for displaying the data. So after that I just created a tr, and after that tr has the table. First I create a table head scope of row, and for my ID, right? And next I'm going to define my TDs, which I hope that gonna be 3. Okay, so let's for now just create here ID1 and name to be test, email to be test@gmail.com, because we are not displaying our data now so far. So just for the preview we need to just add up the data. All right, so let's go to our app. Now it's looking very nice and awesome. All right, so we are done our most of the part. Let's go and now work with our services and import inside our components, right? So if I go to my app, just close all the unnecessary files. Even I just close everything, right? So things makes a lot much neat and clean. Okay, so now I need to go to my app.module.ts file. So as source app.module.ts, because we have defined the HTTP client module inside my service. So I also need to define inside my app.module.ts file. So let's go and import here. So I'm going to import here, import. This is going to be HTTP client module from the Angular /common/HTTP. All right, and now we need to define that inside our imports. So let's go into our imports and put that right here and comma. So we define our imports as well. So now if I go to my app.employees.component.ts file, and let's go up inside your components, and let's go into your employees, and now we have our employees.component.html, which has the static data. We need to pass the dynamic data coming from the API. So I need to go to my TypeScript file, employees.component.ts, and let's first define here the array, which has after the on init. So let's define here employees. So we have an data within an array, so we pass here employees. And next thing I'm going to do here is to import my service. But before define my service, it's good to define directly inside the constructor, so it automatically imports if you're using VS Code. So I give it the private, and let's give it the name of data service that we have created, and define our service, so which is data service, right? So I just simply press enter, and now you see it automatically imports the service, right? So let's create a function. Let's create a function with the name of get employees data. But before I just define a function, I need to just test this out using console.log, and let's give it here hello employees. And I also need to call this function. That function should be called inside the ng on init. So I need to, which runs continuously once we refresh, once we add something inside the browser, add something inside the code, right? So it says that, yeah, I need to use here this dot get employees data. All right, so now I go back and inspect it, go inside my console, and you see now we have it's calling our function, which is hello employees, right? So we are done, and now next thing we need to retrieve the data from using the API. It's very simple. I just remove this all, and you need to define this dot data service, that with the name of the service, and let's grab, this function is actually coming from the service, which I can show you. It should be service data.service.ts, and that's the function, right? So this data is coming from here. So let's subscribe it. Now subscribe means if we are pulling some request and get as a response. So we have subscribed the response, and now I need to test using the console.log, and let's add up here response and check this out. Now it shows us an error. It says that /API is /404 4200 / let's see, something might went wrong. Forget to bring up here my HTTP, right? So it should know that from which protocol that it's coming from, right? So it's HTTP:// make sure that you have to add up inside your service. Now let's check up inside our now you can see now we have our two datas within an array. We have the ID, we have the name and the email, because we have the two data, right, with the ID of 1 and 2. So it gave us two arrays of data. Now we need to show this array of data inside as a response to our page on our page. So how we can do it? It's very simple. So all you need to do with the help of the TS file, I need to define here. I already defined my array with the employees. Now this implies we need to display the data as a response to our page. So I'm going to remove that, and let's bring up here this. Let's access the employees. So this dot employees, this means we have accessed the array, and whatever the response we are getting, we get all inside the employees array, right? So now I need to go inside my employees.component.html file, right? So we are using here a loop, which is the ng for. So if you haven't watched my previous video, then no worries with that. I just still give the link in the description. So I'm using here the directive for the loop, which is ng for. So let empty, which is the name of the variable, of employees. Now this employees is basically the array which is coming from the TypeScript file. I just want to show you. So this is the array that we have defined, and now we need to loop the data. Now in order to loop the data, I just need to do here emp, which is the name of the variable, dot, we need to access the object, which is the ID, right? Now just do the same thing here. So let's bring up here emp dot name. Just copy that all and just change. So I just copy that and remove that all. Just copy that here. Now define here email and the last one, which is salary. Saves it, and let's have a look, right? So now we can get the data, as much data we need to insert. So let's insert another data in order to check this out. Let's give it there John, and john@gmail.com, and salary, let's suppose give it the $12, right? Okay, just saves the data, and now I just refresh it, and now you can see now we have our data, right? So I hope you guys will enjoy the very first video of this tutorial. We have get the data. In the next video, I will explain you how we can add the data using using the Laravel API, and with the help of Angular, we can form using the form module, we can post the data and insert it. So let's see you guys in the next video. So please make sure that you subscribe and like this video, and I want to see you for the next time.